podcast, the experience of a podcast is sort of like reading, in that the reader or the listener does so much work with their imagination. And as a director, you've got to fill all of that out, and you've got to make it have as great an impact as the original source material did. So can you talk a little bit about your approach? You were telling me something earlier about the alternating episode approach.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the podcast, I have to say, before I even got the script in my inbox and knew I must try to do this project. But like Jess said, there wasn't much of Leah in the podcast because you're in her perspective, sort of experiencing it with her, but you don't know who she is or what she looks like. So of course you get an A on the test when Jessica Biel steps into the part. So that was lovely. But in terms of like who she was and how she was going to navigate this story, that was really us sitting in a room, in a conference room for a couple of weeks with the guys and really cracking her open. And of course, it just got darker and darker the more Jessica started speaking.
No, like, so true.
She's like the kindest, nicest woman you'll ever meet, so talented. And you're like, wow, what's going on, Jess? But figuring out with Jess who she was really lended me a visual hand. I could actually figure out how to navigate the universe because I can understand her psychology much more. But of course, that's every odd episode is really dedicated to growing Leah's character, and every even episode is basically paralleling the podcast. And so I really wanted to lean into the idea that Leah could step into a survivor's universe, and we could actually kind of play with tone a little bit more in terms of the visual style and just the feeling. Like episode 5, she meets someone, and you go somewhere that you never imagined you would go in this show. And episode, I think it's 6, it becomes much more comedic. So we like to.
We can't tell you about yet.
Right. But I did want to sort of mirror the podcast in that way, but also make the audience feel really grounded in this person, so that it didn't feel all over the place. I wanted some cohesion, and so getting Jess on board and getting her vision of this character, and even just day one seeing her inhabit this role was really eye-opening for me.